I'm going to hold my little mic here because if I put it here, my hair keeps rubbing it and then it sounds funny. So this is where I'm going to hold it. All right, so if you've been here a while, you know that our oldest child, Connor, was born with a unilateral left clubbed foot. And the reason I'm redoing this video is for a number of reasons. One, I went back to my previous clubfoot video where I got some of my facts wrong. Connor was not born with a bilateral club foot. That means both of his feet were clubbed, and they weren't. It was only his left foot. So he had a unilateral club foot. And I got those words mixed up in my previous video when I was talking about the kind of surgery Connor was having and why. And that's why I thought this video needed to be a correction on that. Connor was born with a left unilateral club foot, and that is why I'm filming this video, and that is why he had surgery last week. And so I thought I would share his entire clubfoot journey with you, starting when we found out about his clubfoot to present day. So let's get into it. Around the 28, 29, 20-ish week mark at one of my ultrasounds, I had to have a number of them because baby wasn't cooperating within the womb for the ultrasounds, and they needed to know if his foot was just pressed up against the uterine wall funny or if it was clubbed. So I had to go back for another ultrasound. And it was later on in my pregnancy because it was in the middle of COVID, and they were advising pregnant women not to go into the hospital too much unless it was an emergency or all these things. And so I kind of put this ultrasound on hold until I knew it was a little bit safer for me to go in. Now I know it would have been, but back then everybody was kind of unaware. Nobody was sure what was going on because it was 2020. And so I waited. And so around the 28, probably even closer to 30 weeks, I went in for the ultrasound and it was confirmed, yes, baby had a clubbed foot. And my doctor reassured me that she had a really good friend in the city nearby who specialized in things like this, and she was going to refer us to him right away. So the moment this precious baby was born, we would be put into his care, and he would start looking after Connor and starting to help us correct his clubbed foot. And so at birth, when he was born, because he was born with a number of health issues when we were flown down to BC Children's in Vancouver, we couldn't see this doctor right away because he was closer to home. And so we were put into the clubfoot clinic there in the hospital for our time that we were in the NICU. And there we started something called serial casting. Now, serial casting is when we put a cast on, it's on for a week. The next week we take it off, give him a full body bath, cast him again because the cast can't get wet. And we continue that. And so we did one cast, had it on for a week, and then when it was supposed to come off, we put a new one on. And 2 days after that cast was put on, I noticed his toes were starting to turn purple and blue, and they figured, okay, the cast is too tight. They had to take it off. So they took it off, and they just left it off because we were going to be discharged soon anyway. And the person who was doing the clubfoot clinic there at the hospital there in Vancouver said we could continue the serial casting once we got home and put into the orthopedics care in Prince George. And so when Connor was probably around a month old by the time we finally saw him for the first time, and we started serial casting. And this doctor kind of gave us the rundown of what was going to happen. Serial casting for 6 weeks, but at the 3-week mark, they were going to do something called, and let me get this right, a tendon Achilles lengthening. And so what that is, so we did the serial casting, a cast a week. It was sponge bathed throughout the week, and then once the cast came off, it came a full body bath, went back to see the orthopedic surgeon, and they would recast his foot. So this happened for 3 weeks. At the 3-week mark, we took the cast off, we gave him a bath, brought him to the hospital, and there they did the tendon Achilles lengthening. And what that is they put a local anesthetic on the back of his foot so it was completely numb. And then they put a really sharp needle into his tendon to tear it a little bit. And they straightened his foot as straight as they could get it, and they casted it again. And after that, his foot was in that cast for 3 weeks. So that was 6 weeks of wearing a cast, but this time it wasn't coming off at all for 3 weeks. So he had sponge baths for 3 weeks. Once that came off, we were put into boots and bars, and the boots and bars were going to be on until he was 3 months old. And I'm not 100% sure on my dates, but I'm fairly certain he had to wear them for 23 hours a day, 7 days a week for the first 6 months of them being on. The boots and bars got put on in September of 2020. And I can't remember if it was February or March where I went into Prince and our doctor said, okay, you can go to wearing them just for nights and naps. So now it was no longer 23 hours a day. It was just for nights and naps. And that went on until the year of, so I was pregnant with Lillian. So in the year of 2023, that July, we went in to see the doctor and he said, you know what, let's get him out of the boots and bars. His foot is perfectly corrected. So we were thrilled. However, we were told to keep his foot in a brace or an orthotic for naps, just so that we would continue to keep it straight, because most kids his age would have been walking around that time. However, Connor was not because of his arthrogryposis. So we were told there's always a chance that it will relapse. We're hoping it won't, but there's always that possibility, even in kids who do walk. This method for straightening a clubbed foot is highly successful, but there's still always a chance of relapse. And so, okay, we were aware, we knew the risks, and we thought if it was going to relapse, we're hoping it'll do it sooner rather than later, so we don't have to do surgery later on in his life. So we started wearing orthotics, kind of like this one. This is already his second or third one. This is the last one he wore before his surgery. For whenever we wanted him to walk, or when he was in a stander, or when he was for naps nights, except he doesn't nap anymore. So basically for his nights. We stopped wearing it at night because he started complaining that his foot hurt and he wasn't getting good sleep. He wasn't sleeping fully. He was up often. We finally got to the point of just taking it off and not using it at all for the night because honestly we needed him to sleep. And so that was basically, nothing exciting happened with his club foot for the next 2 years. We saw his doctor periodically because once we got the boots and bars off, he said, you can go to seeing me yearly. And at those yearly appointments, if we see something happening, then we'll do something about it. And if I noticed anything that was concerning, I was always free to give him a call and he would schedule us in. And that's exactly what we did. In October of 2025, I should also say, when he graduated from the boots and bars, we had a huge party with all of his friends and family celebrating this 3-year mark of the boots and bars coming off. So I was pregnant with Lillian at the time, and then after she was born, 4 months later, we found out we were pregnant with Bree, and so we were kind of keeping an eye on his foot, but we did notice it's starting to curl back in. But then in October of 2025, he started walking. Like, oh, this is great. If he starts walking now, maybe his foot will start to correct and we won't have to go in for surgery. But my husband took him into the doctor anyway. And the doctor said it is kind of at the point where he would want to do surgery, but since Connor has just started walking, he didn't want to hinder his walking in the least bit. So we kind of just left it, seeing if it would do it on its own. And we were told by the guy who makes Connor's braces that technically Connor should probably be put in a brace with a hinge here so that he can walk properly and his ankle can move. And so he said, go back and see the doctor and get a prescription for that, and we will get you one made. Okay, so in March of 2026, so last month, we went to see the doctor again. And he looked, he said, what can I help? Like, yeah, he could see that the foot was starting to relapse, or the foot had relapsed. And he's like, all right, so what are you thinking? The guy who makes Connor's brace said we should get a walking orthotic. He's like, no, I'm not doing that because 1, they break easily, and 2, they're very expensive to fix, and 3, he can walk in this brace just fine, and 4, it's actually time to do surgery. Oh, all right. Well, that's not why we had gone to the doctor, so we were kind of taken back a little bit, but okay, let's book the surgery. So at that appointment, I signed all of his pre-surgical forms, giving them permission to prep for surgery and all those things. And then we were sent home with instructions to get an x-ray done, and the x-ray had to be done just right, or it was going to be completely useless to the doctor. So a week later, we got a phone call to get the x-ray done, went in, got that done. And then we were told that the surgery could take place in the next 2 to 3 months. All right, so we were expecting early to mid-summer. And then the first week in April, I get a phone call that this was the pre-surgical nurse. She was calling to get Connor's clubfoot surgery booked. And I'm like, oh, for when? And she said April 14th. I'm like, oh, that's 5 days away. I'm like, okay, book it for now. I'm quickly going to call my husband to confirm, and I was going to call her back. So I called my husband. He's like, yeah, let's get it over and done with. Great. Let's get it over and done with. So I called the surgical booking again, and the surgery was now booked for April 14th. So we did not have a lot of time to mentally prepare for the surgery. And we talked about it a little bit with Connor, and he got nervous. We figured, oh, let's stop talking about it with him, because if he's going to be nervous, we don't want him scared. And then on April 14th, that video is everything that happened there is in the video that I posted last week. So feel free to go watch that one again if you haven't seen it yet. But the surgery that they did, I wrote it down because I wanted to remember. So what they did is a left foot open tendon Achilles lengthening. That's the same thing. It wasn't an open foot, it was a closed foot. Now because he was bigger and the doctor wanted to do more things, they just cut open his foot to do it. So it was left foot open tendon Achilles lengthening. And then they did a posterior hind foot release, and then a transfer of the tibial tendons. So the tendon Achilles, that's pretty self-explanatory. The posterior hind foot release, I've got some images here that I can throw up for you to kind of get an idea. And then a transfer of the tibial tendons. So there was a tendon pulling his foot in. They snipped that tendon, moved it to the other side of his foot to pull his foot back out. And that surgery, the doctor only booked his OR for an hour, but he was in there for 2. And then we couldn't see Connor for another hour after he was moved to recovery because he was waking up from anesthetic. Now his foot is in a full leg cast. We were told at the beginning it would just be below the knee so he could walk, and after the x-rays the doctor was like, I think it needs to be in a full leg cast, because for his foot it straightened a lot nicer, like the muscles in his foot straightened nicer when his knee was bent. Because when he was little, I had asked the doctor if Connor's club foot was related to the arthrogryposis, and the doctor didn't think so because it corrected super smooth. But then the older he got, the tighter the foot got, and it wasn't staying. And because his foot straightened better when his knee was bent, the doctor started realizing, you know what? Yeah, this left club foot could very easily be a part of his arthrogryposis, which is throwing everybody for a loop, because AMC then has affected his entire body, from his jaw to his knees to his arms, his hands, his left club foot, but his right leg, totally fine. There is nothing deformative about that leg. We call it his one good limb. And so he's like, it sounds like his club foot could be because of his arthrogryposis, but that doesn't explain why just one foot. So it's a little bit odd. But either way, so it was harder to straighten after all because it wasn't going to stay there. His leg is very, very tight, or his foot is very, very tight, but it does straighten nicer when his knee is bent. So the doctor, for his foot to heal properly in a straight position, he wanted his knee bent slightly just so that it would stay in a neutral position a lot easier. So he's in a full leg cast. And the first few days were very rough. He slept in our room. He was up frequently, on pain meds quite a bit. And yesterday was the first full day where he didn't ask for pain meds. So we had a surgery on the 14th. The 15th, 16th, 17th. Today is the 19th. So yesterday was the first day where he didn't ask for any pain meds. So 4 days of pain meds, and he hasn't asked for them since. And he complains every now and then that his foot hurts where the incision is, but not enough for him to actually ask for pain meds. And he was very scared to put weight on his foot the first few days, which is totally understandable. But now he started putting weight on it again. Not a lot, but just enough. So yeah, that is the story of Connor's club foot. If you want to go watch my other ones, feel free to do that. But this is all the words put in correctly and used correctly. So thank you for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.